Claude Design 2 just dropped, and the biggest change for finance is how much you can build from a single starting point. You set up one project folder in one company design system, and from there, the same source feeds a document, a deck, a dashboard, and a planning tool that all look and behave like they came from the same place. Now, before this, every one of those outputs was a separate job. You pulled the same numbers into a different tool each time, you rebuilt the branding, you reformatted the layout, and you re-explained the context that the model had no memory of. The analysis was rarely the slow part. The time went into recreating the same foundation for every new deliverable. I'm going to walk you through 4 building use cases that will show you exactly how to use Claude Design 2 for finance, a full year financial report with executive commentary and imagery generated to match the brand, also a board presentation with professional animations that validates its own slides, an interactive FP&A command center with global filters and full drill down, and a scenario planning studio where moving one business assumption updates the entire model in real time. Now remember, if you want the prompts, the datasets, and the design system files from this video, they're all in my free community, which is linked in the description below. For now, let's get into it. The first build is a publication-ready full year financial report. And this is the actual document that executive management receives at the end of a given period. Everything in this step runs on one example company called Nova Energy and one project folder that holds its data. Now inside that folder is the kind of information the real FP&A team works from. Monthly financials, budget versus actual, business unit and regional performance, operational KPIs, and the planning assumptions. And alongside those spreadsheets, there are executive notes and a company profile so that Claude has the story behind the numbers and not just the figures. Now the other half of this setup is the design system. In Design 2, a design system is where you load your brand once. The colors, the typography, the spacing, and the reusable components. Claude then applies it to everything you build so that every single report, deck, and dashboard comes out looking like the same company made it. Now, I built a Nova Energy design system up front, and it is what keeps all 4 of these builds visually identical. Now to start, I open a new Claude Design session. I select the Nova Energy design system. I choose the document template, I attach the project folder, and then I set the model to Claude Opus 4.8. Now this is part of reporting that normally eats up a full day. So the analysis already exists in a spreadsheet somewhere, and turning that into a design document with commentary, with charts, and a consistent look is where most of the time usually goes. So I give it one prompt and I keep it deliberately open. I do not name a period or a length. I ask Claude to review the folder, to identify the relevant files, and to build a professional financial report that combines the financial analysis with executive commentary using Higgsfield for the imagery. Now, I leave it open on purpose because before it builds anything, Claude reads through the folder and then it does something new in Design 2. It stops and asks how I want the report produced, how it should be framed, which is where I pick the full year 2025 view over a single quarter or a half year. It asks how detailed it should be, from a short executive brief up to a full document with appendices. It asks how heavily to lean on imagery and which source wins when the executive commentary and the spreadsheets disagree, so that the report never blends 2 versions of the same number. And those questions turn the job from content generation into a real publishing brief. Once I answer, Claude inspects the design system for the typography, layout rules, and components. Then I connect Higgsfield for the visual layer. Now Claude can generate visuals on its own, but for a publication-ready finance report, I need more than images that broadly match the topic. The visuals need to fit the business, the section they belong to, and the design system already driving the document. So for this, I always use Higgsfield since it's the best tool for AI visuals. It generates 6 images in parallel, each one built for this specific report. A cover hero shot of renewable infrastructure, then wind farms, battery storage, and grid imagery for sections that they support. Every image comes back with the same cool toned navy grading as the design system, so the report feels like it uses commissioned corporate photography rather than generic AI imagery. Now, only after the imagery is ready does Claude build the document itself, rendering every chart directly from the financial data as an editable component. Now, the finished report runs 10 sections. It moves from the cover page and executive summary through financial performance, cash flow, business units, regional performance, and the full year 2025 outlook. Now, the cover opens on a full bleed hero image with the report title as the focal point, and it reads like a published annual report. Every page carries the same navy header band, KPI layout, and clean financial tables. The generated imagery anchors each major section instead of just sitting on top as decoration. Now, the part that stands out is a piece of financial reasoning. While building the cash flow section, Claude noticed that operating cash flow, capital expenditure, and free cash flow did not reconcile into a clean waterfall. It did not force the chart. It presented the three as separate reported metrics and then explained why, keeping the figures accurate. Now, there's one more thing worth showing here, and it is the strongest example of what Higgsfield adds. When I reviewed the report, the regional section had empty space under the 3 cards. I switched it into annotation mode and then wrote a short instruction asking for geographic maps. Higgsfield generated 3 world maps, 1 per region, each with the relevant geography highlighted in the exact navy and blue that the report already uses, with the revenue and contribution figures layered on top. And that is the difference, because without a dedicated visual layer, you either have to just accept generic AI images, or maybe spend time trying to prompt something closer, or manually force visuals into the report after it has already been built. But here, the visuals are created around the business context, the available layout, and the design system, all from the start. Now, Claude Design handles the placement, dropping each map into its card without moving the surrounding layout or text. Empty white space becomes the strongest visual section on the page. Now, if you're building reports or decks or dashboards or other finance outputs in Claude Design, the right visuals will level up the final result. Now, here I used Higgsfield whenever I need that visual layer. If you want to try it yourself, I've added a link in the description, and you can sign up, connect the Higgsfield MCP inside Claude, and use the same workflow directly inside Claude Design. The second build is a board of directors presentation from the same folder. Now, the setup is the same, except this time I choose the slides template. The prompt asks Claude to pull the relevant files and build a board-ready deck of Nova Energy's full year 2025 performance, organized into clear executive storytelling with modern visuals, and to add smooth professional animations across the charts, KPIs, and section transitions. The animation instruction matters because a board deck is watched live, so the way each number arrives on screen is part of how the story reads. Normally, this means reading the spreadsheets, deciding what a board actually needs to see, designing the slides, and formatting every layout by hand. Here, Claude does the reading and the design in one single pass. It pulls the numbers and the executive commentary from the folder. It studies the design systems from the slide components and the animation behavior. Then it plans the full deck structure before writing a single slide. Because it's a large deck, it writes the whole thing first and then runs a validation pass afterwards. The result is a 14-slide deck styled entirely in the Nova Energy system. It moves through a title and agenda, executive summary, financial performance, business segments, regional performance, cash flow, capital allocation, operations, risks, and the full year 2025 outlook. The figures come straight from the workbooks. Revenue of 887 million, 5.9% growth, a 28.2% EBITDA margin, and $212 million in free cash flow. Nothing is invented to fill a slide. On the segment slide, it splits the company into solar, wind, battery storage, and grid services, with battery storage flagged as the fastest growing and solar holding the strongest margins. It also caught a reporting inconsistency, an older full year 2024 figure in the company profile sitting on a different scale to the full year 2025 model, and chose to rely on the internally consistent numbers. The animations are built to guide attention in a boardroom. KPI cards count up as they land, charts build as they're introduced, waterfall visuals reveal one component at a time so that the room follows the point being made. And Claude checks its own work. It rendered the slides, caught text wrapping on the operation slide and inside a risk label. It fixed both and then it ran the check again before finishing. And that validation pass is normally a manual review. Here, it happened inside the build itself. Now, those are the two static deliverables. The next two are live applications. Use case 3, the interactive FP&A command center. The third build is an interactive FP&A command center. It replaces the stack of workbooks the finance team opens every morning with one single dashboard. Same folder and design system, but this time I choose the prototype template and ask for a command center that consolidates the company's financial and operational performance with filtering, drill down, and interactive views. Like the report, Claude asks how the dashboard should work before it builds, who the audience is, what the landing page shows, which views to include, how deep the drill down should go. I set it for FP&A analysts, a full P&L snapshot on open, every module and full drill from a KPI down to a segment, a month and a line item. It builds the data layer first. Everything from the folder gets consolidated into one model, so every chart, KPI and filter reads from the same source. Then it builds the dashboard on top. The finished application opens on an executive overview. The KPI cards cover revenue, EBITDA, free cash flow, and net debt to EBITDA, and each one carries a small spark line so you see the trend and the current number together. Moving across any chart brings up a hover tooltip with the exact value for that period. The real value is in how it behaves. Global filters for time, period, region, and business unit update every view at once. Change one and then the whole dashboard reflects the context across every KPI, every chart, and every table. Variance heat maps flag favorable and unfavorable performance visually so that you spot the problem areas faster than reading down a spreadsheet. The drill down moves the way an analyst actually works. You start at a high level KPI, open the segment underneath it, then the month, then the individual line item. The financials module carries a full income statement, balance sheet, and cash flow rather than just a single P&L. It also pulls together operational KPIs into the same place, plant availability, capacity utilization, and cost per megawatt hour so that you can see which operational drivers moved the financial results. Claude ran its own checks here too. It caught a projected revenue figure getting clipped in the forecast grid, widened the card, and then confirmed every module was wired back to the data model before handing it over. The fourth build is a scenario planning studio. So same folder, same design system, the prototype template again. The prompt asks for a studio where adjusting a business assumption instantly updates the projected impact across revenue, EBITDA, net income, cash flow, debt and cash runway. It also asks for smooth professional animation so those updates play out visually with each KPI, chart and forecast moving as the scenario changes rather than jumping to a new value. Claude reads the scenario assumptions from the folder. It builds the financial model behind the interface first, then it builds the interface on top. That separation between the calculation and the display is what lets it behave like a genuine planning tool. Before finishing, it validated the model against the source projections. It found the net debt to EBITDA ratio reading higher than management's target. It traced that to a ratio that needed annualizing and then corrected it. Then it ran the downside scenario against the uploaded projections and confirmed the EBITDA matched exactly with revenue inside a small margin. The finished studio is built around 10 assumption sliders. They're grouped into growth and pricing, operating costs, and capital and financing, which makes them far easier to read than a wall of spreadsheet cells. It ships with 3 presets loaded from the planning workbook: base, optimistic, and downside. The moment you start moving a slide yourself, it switches to a custom scenario. 6 KPI cards sit across the top: revenue, EBITDA, net income, free cash flow, net debt, and cash runway. Each one shows its value and the variance against the base case, color-coded so that you can see immediately whether a change helps or hurts. Underneath sits a 12-month forecast that uses the company's real seasonality, a cash runway gauge, and a management summary that rewrites itself for each individual scenario. Next to the forecast, an impact panel shows each metric as a diverging bar against the original plan, so that the direction of every change is obvious at a single glance. And the animation here does actual work. When you move revenue growth or pricing, every value transitions instead of snapping to a new number. You watch the change move through revenue into profitability, then cash generation, then debt and runway in one continuous motion. You see the cause and effect play out instead of reconstructing it in your head. So that's 4 finance bills from a single project folder: a publication-ready report, a board deck, an interactive FP&A command center, and a scenario planning studio, all sharing one design system, all built by pointing Claude at the same files. What changes for you is the production work. You're no longer rebuilding charts or formatting slides or matching branding across 5 different models. You're reviewing the deliverable, you're questioning the assumptions, and you're deciding whether it's ready to put in front of the board. Claude handles the build, but the judgment stays yours. Now, if you want the prompts and the project files from this video, they're in the free community. Link is in the description below, and I'll see you next time.